Welcome to Catalyze. I'm your host, Aadya Gattu from the class of 28. This spring, the inaugural class of Morehead-Cain Global Fellows will conclude their year at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. The Global Fellows program identifies, invests in, and empowers emerging leaders who seek to positively shape communities around the world. This mini-series of the Catalyze podcast highlights members of the first class, featuring Global Fellows from Nigeria, Turkey, and India. In this episode, I speak with Disha Parasu from the class of 26 about her journey to Carolina, her experiences in the program, and how the year will inform her future impact. Disha, welcome to the podcast.
Glad to be here.
I'd love to start by just asking about your classes. What's been your favorite one this year from either semester?
I think I've had two of my classes. Both of them are entrepreneurship classes. My introduction to entrepreneurship last sem, and this sem it's innovation for entrepreneurship. And I think both the classes have helped me a lot to since I have a startup of my own. So these two classes are helping me grow my startup more and helping me learn the actual foundations. Since there are a lot of decisions that I have to take and I have no clue what to how to go about them. That's how I love these classes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm super excited to dig into your startups a bit later, but I'd also like to just start off. What's something about Carolina that surprised you when you first arrived?
I feel just the inclusivity where you had it's just so diverse, but they all welcome you with open hands. And I've gone to I think I remember the last week I went to Rodalma's performance, the African night, and I'm not even African, but they welcomed me so open-handedly, and they're we started dancing. I started dancing with some of them, and I think that was the best part, that they just take you in no matter from where you are.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that too. There's something special at this school. But you're a computer science student at the Vellore Institute of Technology, Chennai, specializing in artificial intelligence and machine learning. And you're also a core member of Quantumplators, where you explore quantum algorithms and cryptography. Those are two enormous fields to be working across at once. And I'm curious, what first drew you to that intersection?
So I was always interested in quantum itself from 12th grade, 11th grade, I think. And I was reading about Schrödinger's equations and these books, which are all theoretical. But then in 12th grade, I got the physics part of it, quantum physics, which I absolutely hate. And I was I'm not going to do quantum computing. I'm going to leave this field. But then in college, when I came up, I met the senior again, and he was explaining me how quantum's just not about quantum physics and quantum mechanics. There's a whole world outside of it, which is called quantum computing. And then I started getting into that. And then since I am a computer science student with a specialization in AI, I love the intersection with AI and quantum computing, because AI, both of them go hand in hand and they help each other. And that's the field that I really like. And I love that intersection because they both help each other.
Do you think of yourself more as a researcher or a builder, or does the line kind of blur for you?
I feel it really blurs out for me because I love to build stuff. And then when you're in the process of building stuff, you research a lot more into it. The other day I was building on something else, which is for cryptography. And so it's technically me building something that is not existent, but I had to research a lot about it and get into it so that I know what I'm actually building. So it's for me, it's very blurry.
Can you super briefly, for our viewers and for myself, define what quantum computing and cryptography are?
Okay, so cryptography is basically the security that's the whole coding and encoding and decoding of your data is. So currently what the situation is the fact that with quantum computers, which is in the future, it is told that they can break RSA encryption, which is your whole cybersecurity space is built upon that. And your codes are basically random numbers, which can, if get factorized, then your codes, your passwords, can be hacked, and quantum computers can do that. And so quantum computing is basically how you're using quantum as a particle, which is helping you store data, quantum qubits, and you're able to build stuff with it using circuits. So that's what I was working on.
That made a lot of sense, and I don't know anything about this, so thank you. But on that note, you've also built a quantum machine learning model to detect diabetes. That's incredible. Can you take us back to how that project started?
So a lot of members in my family do have diabetes, and then I feel it's a lot of genetic, it's very genetic, but like people get to know at the very like end of it when you're having these tests, regular tests, and that's how they identify it. For me, I feel like if you actually identify it much beforehand, you're able to make your life decisions in a better way. And so that's one thing I started looking into. And so one of my cousin who's like studying in Baylor, she's a medical student, and so it was over the winter break when I was at her house, and we were talking about diabetes and how it's such a regular thing to see in every household in India. And so I was talking to her, and she started telling me how you can actually identify diabetes without like just having, your blood test, because this is type 1 diabetes, which is more genetic. And so with that, I started building up on my project with like having BMI and searching all of these things, which I never knew skin thickness was a thing that diabetes depends on it. So all of those variables. And then I built my project.
What did you learn from that process that surprised you?
I never believed skin thickness and stuff like that or BMI were variables that play a important role in diabetes, type 1 diabetes. And there's different type of diabetes. Like some of them are not genetic, some of them are just lifestyle based. And so there are different type of diabetes, which I did not even know about. And so it was like really fun getting into it.
It's amazing to me how you are so willing to tackle on a huge problem you don't know that much about and just like dive into that research. That's awesome. Or were there any resources at Carolina that kind of helped you navigate that process? Because it started over winter break, you said.
Yeah, so like I have like some of my friends who are doing BME, biomedical engineering here, and it's obviously a really good program here. Mm-hmm. So she like helped me out, like Gayatri, we were talking about diabetes again. I remember like not diabetes, autoimmune diseases, and how she's like trying to work with that and all of those data, and how she's working in research labs here. And so like when we were having these conversations, she also like pitched in. So like when I had a rough model that I was built up during the winter break, I spoke to her about it, and she helped me like build it up even better. So that's obviously the people here and their knowledge here, the students here itself.
And can you just explain a little how a computer model is involved in kind of like a physical disease? Can you talk about that a bit?
So like with you have like these variables and these reports that you get, and so like they have these values, and so like your computer models are basically finding a pattern with these models. So there are people who already have diabetes, and so it takes the value of people who have diabetes and how people that have that your variables, and so it checks these values and detects if you have diabetes or not. With my model that it's giving you more of a risk score that you have, that how close you are to getting diabetes, as well as like dosage and medications and life recommendations. That's what it's basically built upon my knowledge. It's better to go to the doctor, but it's like a rough thing that I built.
I could ask probably a million more questions about that, but I'd love to talk a bit about the MIT Interdisciplinary Quantum Hackathon. So you competed this semester, and your team from Carolina placed in top 10 out of 60 teams, which is awesome. Can you tell me what it was like to be in that environment and a little more of what the process is?
So basically my team consisted of like people all around the globe. So we have people from Argentina, Seoul, India, and then UC Berkeley. And so we have people from all over there, and I was like from UNC that was there. And so it was a really fun experience because you could see so much talent that was all around the globe. Because I feel like we did, so there were two options of remote and in person. And I chose remote because I could like meet much more people remotely, because you would never meet a person from Argentina in MIT, but I luckily through my remote experience I could meet her, which is amazing. And so I feel like it was a really good experience for me to learn much more from them.
And what was the actual hackathon like? Was it timed? Was it super high pressure? What was your final product?
So basically our challenge was like, they gave us questions where we had to like reduce the number of T counts. So like usually in general, when you're using these gates, there's something called T gates, and there's like they're very expensive to run. And so our problems were basically how you like reduce that number of T gates and using like other types of gates and like the Clifford gates. And so it was that. And so through the process, so what we did was like we reduced all the gates, but the thing we did not realize is like the trade-off that we're doing, that we're taking much more time and stuff like that. We didn't realize it till the end, because our T gate values were all T count values were all 0. And so we were like, oh my God, we're gonna win. And then we realized at the end that we were like 8th or 9th. Then we were like, this does not make sense. But then when we questioned it, they were like, you are not seeing the trade-off balance. Like the other teams had higher TCon, but they also, because they balanced it out. So that's one thing that I learned from the experience.
Yeah, seems like a huge lesson. Have you done hackathons before? I feel like they're really popular at UNC.
Mm-hmm. So I've done like other hackathons, MIT hackathon. I did that last year as well. But I feel like last year was just me learning of how to do these hackathons, because like I've had a different experience of doing hackathons in India, and then just like going globally and like meeting people and learning from them was much different this year for me. And so yeah, the hackathons are always a point where you meet so many people, talk to people, get to know their work, which I love. And so that connection is obviously like one of the best things, because I've met like a lot of people through these hackathons, which worked me through my startup as well. So it's always through these hackathons I meet people.
Can you talk a little bit more about your startup?
So it's like Collective Qubits is what the startup is called. And so it's basically like we're a group of people that we met during this scholarship called the Wiser Scholarship. And then we met some few people during hackathons that also joined. So we're mostly like when companies come to us and with their problems of like, they want to build like incorporate quantum computing in their products and stuff like that. So we help them integrate quantum computing and do research. There are a lot of colleges that have long-term research projects that they want to do. And so they come to us. And so we basically build that. And we also have workshops for people who want to get into the quantum computing space and want to learn much more. And so, yeah, we do workshops as well.
And that started at Vellore Institute, right?
Or no, it actually started, I think, in July between VIT and UNC.
Okay,
and it was during one of these summer, it was through Quantumplators, where one of my seniors were like this thing called Wiser program, which happens like every year. And then I met some of the people there at Wiser, and then one thing led to another. And then I started working in the startup.
Wow, that's incredible. How has it progressed this past year at Carolina?
I feel like it's become much better. I feel like in July, we had to start but we had no direction. And I feel with the Morehead-Cain scholarship as well, I got so much knowledge to talking to people when we went to San Francisco, all talking to investors and like startup owners and all of the software engineers, which helped me get a much clear direction of where we wanted to go. And I feel like now it's come to a point where we're working with BQP for one of our events on 11th and 12th April. So it's just like all the scholarship helped me a lot, much more to like get a clear direction, as well as my professors at UNC. I've gone to some of my professors asking how I should go about. And so like my quantum computing professor this semester, he helped me out a lot.
Yeah. In your ideal world, what's the next big step you're taking with it's qubits, right?
Collective Qubits.
Yeah. What's the next big step you're taking with it? What's the next milestone?
It's just that we're trying to work with companies as of now. So like we build more projects for them and like get out more projects there. It's more about like how you create, like we want to have much more like company like relationships with people and get those products out there and make collaborations. That's one thing that we want to really work about, because right now we're more of workshops and helping students, which I absolutely love. But we also want to get more products out there so that we're helping the world itself.
That's incredible. I want to talk a bit about your experience with the Global Fellows Program overall. How did you first hear about it and what drew you to apply?
So we had I was contemplating between going to an internship for quantum computing in Bulgaria or the Morehead-Cain scholarship, and both of them had both the mails came simultaneously 10 minutes apart. And I went to my professor, the HOD, the dean in our college, for getting both of these opportunities. What should I do? And she was like, that's your decision. We would love for you to go apply for both of them. It's your decision. And one of my uncle, so he lives in Apex, and he was telling me about it. He's like, Morehead-Cain's a really good scholarship. And then I was just thinking, and then my roommate, one of my friends knocked at my door, and she's like, I want to apply. Apply with me. And I'm like, sure. So I did not know what I was getting into, but it was really fascinating to meet people all around the world. And that's one thing that's always for me, it makes me really happy. And so I applied, and then one thing led to another, and I'm here.
Wow. What made you say yes to this over the internship or over, pursuing other opportunities besides the meeting other people? How much, I guess, did you know about the scholarship before you said yes? I feel like personally, I kind of didn't know anything about it. And then I just took a leap of faith.
Neither did I. For me, like, we also, like, we were the initial cohort, so we had nothing to look back and see what was going to happen with us. But just the fact that I was the Morehead-Cain, and I knew my uncle here was telling me it's a really good scholarship. And I feel like for me, I had to take the scholarship over the internship in Bulgaria because meeting people is such a big thing. I can do internships later on in my life, but meeting people here, because I know how UNC was like more diverse because there's so many people around the world coming to UNC. And that's one thing that pushed me here.
I think one of the most unique aspects of the Global Fellows program is how you get to design your own experience. So I want to know, when you arrived, how did you think about shaping your year kind of intentionally?
For me, I was like intentionally planning to like always like trying to like doing these research projects, doing all of this, keep doing work and all of it. But obviously throughout the journey, it changed so much. I feel like when I initially landed here, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to get a job and internship. So like all these projects would help me much more. But during my journey, I never knew that I would even think of masters as an option. Talking to so many people in the space, like my mentor, Will Oxford, or people just in general here, and like during the alumni forum, I never knew I'd actually look into like doing a master's program in the future. So that's one thing that changed. I think we can never plan your journey with this thing, even though it is very like you build your own road and own path and you shape it the way you want it to this experience. You never know what the experience is going to turn out, I think.
Yeah, I'm curious to know, I think I've had this conversation with some other global fellows, especially India and the education system there. It's not as liberal arts. You kind of choose your track and you're studying that track. What was that like to come then to a university where you're required to take courses outside your discipline? Have you engaged kind of with that? Have you learned anything from that? What's been your favorite part?
I feel like it was a really good experience because, as you just said, because in India, when you take a track, all your courses are based on that track. It's like all my computer science courses. And I feel like when I was choosing classes here, I deliberately made a decision to like take some of my courses that I have to take for my degree, but also take courses that were very different. So my entrepreneurship classes are not even part of my degree, and I just love those courses. And I also took a psychology course this time because I'm just like,
about that.
Yeah, and like even like my personal finance class, it's so different. But I loved all of these classes and gave me so much a different perspective on things.
I also know that the Global Fellow cohort has done a lot of Lovelaces together separately. Can you talk a little bit about some of the projects you've worked on with that?
So I did like a pre-approved Lovelace fund with Possible, and it was a really good experience because obviously when I was telling about placements and internships, it gave me a much more clear path and like how my future is going to be. And so that gave me a lot of sense of where I want to be in the future, as well as we did other Lovelaces. Like we went to New York and DC over the spring break, which is one of the best experiences I've had in my life, because I feel like with this experience of the Lovelace, it opened so many doors for us. Like we went to like the UN, we met so many alumni, and so like all of these dreams were like in textbooks and like in dreams. Like all these pictures that we saw of the UN were on my dreams and like books, but like actually being there was a very different experience. And so I feel like the Lovelace opened up so many opportunities. And I think also in the next week, this week, I'm going to Seattle to meet more alumni and people in my field. So I feel like it opened so many doors for me.
I think one thing I feel like I've grown in the past 2 years is that these different experiences, traveling, classes, alumni, like all these different methods of learning outside the classroom have changed the way I think so much. I'm curious if you agree, and if so, how? Do you feel like you've changed kind of your mindset, the way you think, just with all the different modes of experiential learning that come with being a Morehead-Cain?
Definitely shaped the way I think about stuff. Because like I remember before coming here, my thing was like I finished college, go to a job. It was always like one thing after another. And through this whole process, it's like it taught me how life is a journey and how like it's taken every moment. Because when I talked to alumni, they told me about how much they loved being a scholar and like their journey. And all of like talking to them, it just makes sense that you have so much opportunities right now. And you keep thinking of the future. You're not going to enjoy the present. I remember Melanie, I had a conversation with Melanie and she was telling me about like, if she had an opportunity to do a research project or go to a football, like American football game, you should choose the American football game because you're not going to see an American football game when you go back to India. And I love that decision. I went for so many football games, even though we lost. But I went. I went for almost like 4 or 5 games last time. I went for 2 basketball matches this time. And it was just taking that experience that you have as of now. And I loved it. So it definitely shaped me.
Do you think it's changed your relationship with ambiguity at all? Are you more okay with not knowing what comes next?
It definitely did. Initially, I remember I used to have like a lot of this scare in me because my friends back in India were like, doing internships, placements. Like right now, they're doing internship tests. And I had a conversation with Julie DeVoe, and she's like, that's something you have to gain, like be used to it, I think, when you're going in the future, because you never know what's going to happen. And I think I've come to terms much more with it. Like, enjoy the present, obviously work for the future, but like, obviously life is obviously going to be uncertain. You never know.
Yeah, I remember Chris Bradford always says you have to run your own race. Like you have to put blinders on and not focus on what other people are doing. And I definitely have to remind myself of that a lot. But do you feel like all these different modes of learning have changed the way you approach problems in your primary field?
I feel like when I look at a problem initially, I was more like obviously thinking of a solution. I think through this experience and through my classes here, I think my entrepreneurship class always now has taught me that when there's a problem, think of it why it's a problem and go into that depth and then try finding solutions for it, but like not initially just jump into solutions for any problem. Look into a problem, find out why it's a problem, talk to people and do all of that research before getting into it. And I think that's changed how I would look at stuff now.
Yeah, we do a lot of work, especially with the Civic Collab Summer, with the human-centered design process. And it's all about just asking really deep questions for the communities that you want to kind of help propose a solution for. And on the same note about solutions, you also, apart from your startup, apart from all the research and the million other things, you've worked with like accessible technology before, correct? Like building technology to help individuals with disabilities understand their surroundings?
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit more about that project?
So basically, I remember I was sitting in my uncle's house and they were like I was just watching this ad and it was about like how dogs are helping the blind to like look and stuff. And I felt that a lot of people have that disability where they're not able to see, and I feel like they feel that there's a emptiness in them and some part of them is lost. And I really felt bad for that, and I was like looking into it, and I was going through like projects that I could build at that point, and then seeing that pain point, I was like, let me try looking more into this. There are a lot of solutions that are out there, but they're not very accessible because they're very expensive for people. Like you have those glasses, you have all of this.
They're like $300, those glasses, right?
Yeah, I was looking into one of them and they were like $500. That was too much for me. And so I was like looking into all of these projects, and I'm like, you know what, I can build a project. So I built a project, which is a computer vision project, which like, it's voice audited. So like you can just say, like, tell what am I looking at, and like, where's my phone? If like it's seen in the last 5 minutes, and what have you seen in the last 5 minutes? So that you just have a sense of where you are, so that you don't feel lost, and people don't feel lost.
That's incredible. I feel like every project you've described so far, it requires such specialization in such different fields. How do you persevere through that learning curve?
I feel like there's so many like AI bots present, like Claude, ChatGPT, and all of them make me like feel like I can access more like in different fields, because like obviously for all my projects like computer vision, like it's a whole different field of mine, that because mine's AI and I haven't done computer vision projects much. So like it was like obviously through these AI bots that helped me learn much more. And like even my quantum computing, there's a lot more that's there out there, so which I don't know about. And all of that started masters or like PhDs. And so just these bots just help me get more access to data.
I think a year like this comes with a lot of uncertainty, which we've touched on. I think you've said that you're a little more okay with ambiguity now, but can you share a moment when something didn't go as planned and you had to kind of pivot?
I feel like initially, like when I was coming, I was like very sure that I would be doing a lot more like research on campus. But when I did come here and I did apply for a lot of research positions, a lot of research positions were already taken. And so I felt like I had to pivot more towards projects. Obviously, these professors helped me more with my research projects, but they weren't in labs. And that's how I pivoted, because I found my professors of other subjects helping me out. And then they let me like get in touch with other professors. So I was technically not working in labs, but I was working with my own projects. And that's how I had to pivot.
Yeah. Did you have kind of close relationships with your professors in India as well, or is this a newer thing for you?
I feel like I did have like a close bond, but I feel like here at UNC or just in the US education, I feel like make it such a strong point to have that connection with your professors. Those office hours, I remember for my compilers, one of my assignments was just going to an office hour and just introduce yourself. And that's not one thing that we have in India. So we don't have office hours. You just go into their cabin, and if they're there, you can talk to them. But it's all related to work. But like here, it's like you get to know them in a personal level. And I think last week I went to my quantum computing professor just to know about his research. And like, it was not about the class, not about questions, not what's happening in class, but just his life and how he works with everything.
Yeah, I've always felt so supported by my professors here, and sometimes I'm worried that I'm annoying them when I'm coming into their office hours, but they've all seemed to enjoy it, and it makes me feel very empowered to continue doing it. We've talked so much about different projects you're working on, all these different new and old and continued projects, but I want to know what this year and being a global fellow has taught you about balancing ambition with your own well-being, because that's something the Morehead-Cain staff try to push so much, is taking care of yourself alongside being ambitious and fulfilling your potential.
I feel like obviously the Morehead-Cain scholarship has taught me how like you have to also look at yourself, because I remember I've gone to Ben's office so many times. I'm like, there's so much that I have to do. There's so many exams. There's so much I want to do, and I'm not able to get time. And he's like, you just have to calm down, have a conversation with one of these scholars who are randomly in the Morehead-Cain Foundation. Just go talk to them and have that, just forget about the work that you have and just have some fun time. I think even Chris Bradford always like talks about it, where you have to keep your mental health much before that. And I think I've come into terms with that. And like, I feel like also I started learning how like, if you love your work, you also have like a much better mental balance. Because initially, like I remember when I was working with projects that I did not like, it stressed me out even more because I had no clue what's happening. But with projects that I actually like, I get into the depth of it, and actually I'm having fun, where I sometimes block the whole world outside, but I'm actually having fun. It's just my way of having fun.
Yeah, I think you mentioned talking to other global fellows and other scholars. Can you talk about what it was like to be welcomed into the community and how you and the other global fellows got so close and what that relationship has been like?
Just the fact that with like my roommate is Rotamla, and so we've had so many conversations that I never knew how like the Indian culture is so similar to the Nigerian culture and like the education system. And we would make so many jokes about this because we're like, this does not make sense. I remember one of the days I was having a samosa, which is like very common in India. Yeah. And then I realized the Nigerian girls come in and they're like, oh my God, that's a samosa. I'm like, how do you know this? And they're like, we get this in Nigeria. It's very common in Nigeria. And which does not make sense to me because we're like different continents and we still have a lot of things common. And I feel like even with the whole like scholar community in general, it was really welcoming. My scholar hosts were Emma Koye and Flavia. And as soon as I came in, we went for food and like Flavia showed me around campus. So I could like orient myself much better. And I feel like it was very welcoming.
Can you give me a story about one of your favorite memories with the other global fellows, with your whole cohort, maybe just with your roommate, with your friends?
We were just have these late night conversations. I feel like me and the Nigerian girls, as well as Ganesh, we all would sit in one room together, and I remember having conversations. And like these conversations would not be normally possible. Like if it was in India, we would not have conversations of like, let's say the terrorist groups that was in Nigeria. I never knew about Boko Haram, and it's probably because my general knowledge wasn't that much. But how these terrorist groups affect their like normal life, I never knew about it, and how like there's so much like similarities but also differences. And I feel like a lot of our conversations also happen in the kitchen when we're cooking, and like Eniola's cooking and like dancing around and I'm just having fun. We're all just having fun, having and talking there. I think that's all of these memories I'm going to take back with me.
Yeah, I think other global fellows on the podcast and in general have said that your bond, it will last a lifetime, and I think that's true. the Morehead-Cain community in general, it's a lifetime relationship. Can you talk a bit about living in a dorm? What's that like? What's the just straight up living situation like here versus home?
I feel like here at the dorms, I feel like I was given much more freedom than when I was living at dorm in India, because there were like times when, we weren't allowed, because we would have it in times in India. But I feel like the dorms here, me and like Aniola or like Ganesh, we would go to Bonchon at like 9:30, and immediately when they're closing, we would go or grab a cup of coffee at that point. So I feel like the dorm life here was really much more fun. Also, the fact that I feel like the location of our dorm was really good, because Davis was right there, campus, like all of my classes are right around that space, the foundation's right there. So I feel like the location was perfect for us.
Yeah, I'm jealous of your dorm location. It is literally on campus. It's nice. For students back in India who might be listening and wondering whether they're ready to apply, what would you tell them? What do you wish you knew at the learning about this program stage?
I feel like if I was applying and like thinking if I should apply or not, I would think I would definitely want to know about the alumni here, because I feel like the alumni connection is so strong. Yeah. And even I remember I was talking to Robbie, and he's one of the alumni of Morehead-Cain, and he got me connected to so many people. They were people I'd never thought of, dreamt of talking to, and I have these meetings set up with them, and it's all the alumni connection itself that you learn so much about. And I think people who are applying from India would definitely want to know how the alumni connection is. That it's very strong here, and even after you it's being an alumni doesn't mean that you're not connected to the foundation anymore. You're still connected to the Morehead-Cain Foundation, and you're not left behind you're done with the foundation. You're obviously going to be a part of it.
I remember when I was applying and learning about the scholarship, my parents were looking up alumni, and every single person they started to see was a Morehead alum. And it's once you realize it, I swear everyone is somehow an alum of this program. It's crazy. But I'm curious, and we've talked a little bit about this, but kind of as a summary, how has this year shaped you as a leader, and what impact do you hope it will have when you return to your university and your home community?
I feel like I've learned so much here about the fact that you take everyone together. That's something which is very different and unique that I haven't seen much. But a lot of people that I've seen is always a rat race at times. But coming to UNC has taught me about I remember when some of the days I was really sick and I couldn't go to class. This girl sitting right next to me, I've never had a conversation with her. I just asked her, can you just tell me what happened in class? She gave me her notes to take pictures. She's I can send you these notes if you want. And that was the sweetest thing that I've seen, that they take everyone together. And I feel I would love to build something around that. And I feel in my startup as well, I want that culture when I'm bringing everyone together. That's pretty much why we do workshops and stuff. And I would love that culture to go forward at UNC and around the world.
Yeah, I will say I've never felt like people at UNC or Morehead gatekeep. They will send you internships they're applying to themselves. They'll tell you this is a job that I think it would be perfect for you. It's kind of unlike anywhere else in that sense. And to close, we're asking all the Global Fellows in this series the same question. What is the most powerful thing you've learned through this experience, and what has had the greatest impact?
The same thing that I would say. I feel you have to take people together. That's one of the biggest lessons I've learned, and to give back. Both these lessons are very important for me now, because seeing the alumni, seeing how they give back, because whenever I talk to them, I have conversations with Robbie telling me about how he would love to give back to the foundation, because he's gained so much from it, as well as how I've learned how they take everyone together. These are the two things I would it's very important lessons that I've learned throughout my journey, and that's something that I would definitely give back as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, Disha. Your journey's been incredible, and you've accomplished in 1 year what I think many people don't in an entire lifetime. It's incredible, but I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. Thank you.
It was amazing to be here.
Thank you for listening to Catalyze. I'm your host, Aadya Gattu from the class of 28, and that was Morehead-Cain Global Fellow Disha Parasu from the class of 26. To learn more about the Morehead-Cain Global Fellows program, head to our website at global.moreheadcain.org. You can let us know what you thought of this episode by emailing us at communications@moreheadcain.org or by finding us on social media at Morehead-Cain.